Action group is going to be going first. I think this is also the LGBTQ gender justice group that we're going to be presenting to. So I'm going to share my screen first. But yes, this is our wonderful workshop created by the Racial Justice Action Group. It is called Keep Calm and Carry On. We're kind of just going to be focusing on how to have difficult discussions revolving racial justice issues and how to just keep your calm within these difficult discussions. So I'm going to start presenting and I'm going to pass it off.
Hello, my name is McKelly, and today I'm going to be letting you guys know the overview for today's workshop. Learning objective: participants will learn the skills to have respectful conversations about racial justice. For a quick overview, we have the icebreaker spectrum, main activity, closing activity, reflection questions, winding down meditation, and finally our resource list.
Hi, so we're going to be doing the icebreakers right now. And the link to the Jamboard should be in the chat. And so for the icebreaker, we're going to be doing a spectrum activity, and there are 5 different places where you can place yourself, which could be either strongly agree, agree, neutral, disagree, and strongly disagree. And on the Jamboard, you can just use a Post-it note and you can write your name on it or stay anonymous. And we're just going to read off some statements. So if there aren't any questions, I'll go on to the first statement. So the first one is, you're aware of racial injustices. So if you guys could just kind of place yourself. And I guess if somebody wants to share the reasoning behind it, one person could just share right now the reasoning for where they reside, if they want to. If no one wants to share, we can go on to the next one. Does anybody want to go?
Sorry, I was gonna say also, if you wanted to go anonymous, you can just put like an exclamation point and put your Post-it under there.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, can you guys not hear me well? Or is it, can you guys hear me well? Or is my volume kind of low?
I can hear you.
Okay, good. So there's a lot of people in strongly agree. Does somebody want to share why before we move on? Anybody?
Sorry, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
My phone, I'm on my phone for Zoom, so I can't really access the Jamboard.
Okay. But can you see the screen right now from the screen sharing, I guess?
Yeah, I can. I just can't, Jamboard doesn't really work on my phone.
That's all right, I guess. So if nobody wants to share, we can move on to the next one, if that's all right. So for the second statement, it's, you feel passionate about a social issue. So you guys can just stick the Post-it wherever you stand. Yeah. Does anybody want to share for this one? Does anybody feel like they just want to share their reasoning behind why they place themselves in a certain spot? Anybody? If you don't want to, that's okay. Okay, so yeah, just like Lena said, or you can share an issue that you're passionate about. Okay. I guess no one wants to go, so I'll pass this on to Natalie.
I can share Jana. Did I say that correctly? Is it Jana?
Yeah.
I feel really passionately about LGBTQ issues. And so I put myself under strongly agree.
Okay, great. That's great. So no one else wants to? Oh, that's cool. Asama said she's passionate about environmental issues. I agree. I feel like we can all kind of relate to that one. So I guess Natalie can go now and she can do 3 and 4.
Hi, I'm Natalie. So the third statement is you feel protests are necessary to make change. So put a post-it under the place that you feel you relate to most with. And if anyone wants to share out why they put themselves under where they put themselves, then you can just raise your hand, or if you want to write it in the chat instead too, that works as well.
I can go. I think protests are really necessary to make change because it helps project basically like your cause, and it helps spread a lot of awareness. You see people walking down the street and protesting, and a lot of bystanders can be curious and ask the protesters what's happening, and it raises awareness, and it helps definitely, it might help a lot of times help pass legislation. A lot of people in offices might take notice and start actually making changes for the people.
Yes, most definitely, I agree. Anyone else want to share for the third one? Okay, if not, then we can move on to the fourth one. And the fourth one is, you guys woke up feeling good today. So, put yourself under where you feel. If anyone wants to share for this, I mean, you can. It's pretty straightforward, I think, but I woke up feeling good, so I strongly agree because I just did. So, yeah.
I put like the in between of disagree and strongly disagree. I just woke up feeling so like, ugh. It felt like a rainy day, but it didn't rain at all. But I woke up feeling just like disgusting. So yeah.
Okay. I'm also seeing some responses in the chat. Daniel said that he stayed up all night last night talking to a friend. That's good, but might be tired. So yeah, and other responses as well. And I will pass it on to Alina for the last two statements.
Okay, so the next one is you often tune people out during debates. So like when someone else is speaking on like their opinions, you often just like kind of just think about what you want to say next and you're not really listening to them. So as we're doing that, does anyone want to speak on like where they chose to place themselves, like speak on like an instance that they like that it happened, or
I put myself between neutral and disagree because I feel like I definitely listen to them, but I feel like in the moment I'm not really considering it. And it's usually like after a debate or a conversation that I think of the points, because I am like sometimes just like preparing to say my own point.
yeah, I completely agree. Sometimes it's more like an afterthought. It's like, that like meme where it's like, oh, when you're like just randomly in the shower and you think of like a comeback for an argument. I think that's like what happens when I think about arguments. Emma?
I think that if you've like created your arguments already, you are bound to like tune out the like your opponent because you focus on your arguments and the evidence that backs that up. But if it's just like a debate that you got into and you didn't have any planning, you didn't plan anything out, I feel like you have to listen to the other person to make the arguments and probably win the debate.
Lastly, Barsat, or did I say it?
Yeah. I don't try to tune out people. Like I'm not trying. I don't want like my feelings or my own opinions to get in the way. I try to subside that and really try to get other people's perspectives going in, because I just like to see how other people think, how other people view a situation. I recently like had a debate with somebody on like the NYPD budget, and they believe like they should receive more money, and I just wanted to understand like what their reasoning and their thinking behind that is, and we just talked it out. And I try to keep like very civil, just just no arguing, just try to get the other opinions.
Yeah, and I also think a big part of it is like your intent going into the debate, as I think someone else said before. And I think we're running a little low in time. So the last statement that we're gonna do is, yeah, okay, you've gotten into a heated conversation about an issue with someone who's closed-minded. And I think I can take 2 people if you guys want to share. Emma?
Yeah, I don't get into like a heated conversation, but like I get pretty angry because in like my personal experience, there's this person that for every topic or issue brings up the same argument or points, and that person's usually like that person's conservative. So the points that he talks about aren't the points that that I agree with, and I get angry because some topics are hit close and topics that I'm passionate about. So I usually tell him that I usually make my arguments and tell him that he's wrong because I believe that 2 things that he's comparing don't make sense with one another. So yeah.
Alicia?
I had like an argument or like a heated conversation with someone when Simone Biles actually dropped out of the Olympics for her mental health issues, and this person was saying that he didn't believe her, like that she had these mental health issues and that she just did it like out of spite. And we kind of got into like a very heated conversation about it because I was like very passionate because I could like sort of like relate to some of the things that she was saying. So we had a conversation about that.
Yeah, and I think there are also some answers in the chat if you guys want to read those through. And a little overview of like just what this icebreaker did. You guys can kind of see where we're all at the beginning of this presentation, and then we'll kind of see where we're at the end. And now I'm going to pass it over to Joanna for the main activity.
So the main activity is we're going to learn about the sentence starters and explore different scenarios in which racism occur in our daily life. We will have 3 scenarios where direct, indirect, and unconscious racism happens. How should you start a conversation with them?
When having difficult conversations about racial topics, use these sentence starters to avoid conflict. For example, I understand your point of view, but I feel that. From my experience and perspective as, I apologize if what I say might offend you, but I'm really nervous or scared or uncomfortable to say this, but I'd like to offer a different point of view on. I'm not sure if this makes any sense, but this topic or issue is very important to me because, and could you tell me more about what you meant by that statement? Remember to always understand the other perspective, and if the conversation gets heated, take a deep breath, change the topic, or politely ask to end discourse.
So the first scenario is you are at a restaurant with your friends when you saw a group of people making fun of a person because of where they came from. If you think that this is unconscious racism, put the surprise emoji. If you think this is indirect racism, put the heart. And if you think this is direct, put the laughing emoji. So the majority of you said laughing emoji, and you're right. This is obviously direct because it's an individual making fun of someone solely based off of their background and nothing else. So obviously, I've also had many heated arguments with people, mainly about racism. And going back to the sentence starters, I think the one that matches this scenario perfectly is I'd like to offer a different point of view on your idea of people who differ from you. As we're all raised in a society where there are like immediate stereotypes that we like take in, and then whether or not we decide to portray it on different people, there's a lot of people still affected by it. And I think if you use any, the other ones are pretty good too for this scenario, but if you use any other one, it will kind of sound like you're giving them a space where they have some sort of right in the scenario. They don't, because making fun of people based on their background at all is just wrong. So I think for this one, you just need to give them like the direct information.
The second scenario is you notice whenever you and your family encounter a Black person, your parents warn you to keep your distance. So you could put your reaction unconscious and indirect or direct. Okay, so this is actually unconscious racism because your family might think that like unconsciously because of the stereotypes online and stuff. Okay, so going back to the sentence starters. I feel like we could use, I apologize if what I said might offend you, but because you don't want to hurt the relationship between your family and at the same time inform them about the things that the racism that is going on. If anyone would like to share what they think or the sentence starters. If not, we could go on to the next one.
Okay, so the third scenario is you and another coworker are required to interview candidates for your company. During the process, you notice your fellow coworker approves of mostly white candidates compared to the other POC, even when some people of color are better qualified. You question why they chose the white candidates rather than the more qualified people of color, and your coworker responds with, "They just seem not as reliable and educated." So again, use the surprise emoji if you think this is an unconscious form of racism, the heart if you think it's indirect, or the laughing emoji if you think it's direct. Okay, so I'm seeing a lot of hearts, and you guys are correct. This is definitely indirect racism because it displays that the coworker has an implicit bias in regards to the work ethic of people of color. So for this scenario, the sentence that I would use is probably the last one, where it says, "Could you tell me more about what you mean by this statement?" Because I feel like a lot of times when we're having discussions of race, a really big idea and a really big, really important thing that you might want to do is kind of like get to the root of this racism in order to kind of shift that person's perspective of like a specific group of people. But I feel like there are definitely a lot of other sentence starters that you could use for this question. There is a question in the chat that's asking if we already defined indirect, direct, and unconscious racism earlier, and we actually did not. So does anyone from our workshop want to give like a quick definition of them, because we did not give those definitions and maybe people don't know how to define these. So
So for unconscious racism, like basically when you are racist against a group, but you are like unaware that you are actually racist. Like when your parents warn you to stay away from certain people because of how they look or where they came from. So you are like unaware, like they are unaware that what they are doing is racist. So direct racism is when people like directly making fun of or like harassing someone because where they came from, and indirectly is when they do it like, you know, in like not as they're doing it like without being appearing racism, like not as much.
And I know a question some people may have is what is like the difference between like unconscious and indirect? So do you guys want to clarify that? Because I know like it can seem somewhat similar, but like what exactly, how would you differentiate between those two?
I could expand a little bit on that. So for me, when I think about indirect versus unconscious racism, for unconscious, I kind of think about it as, you know, the person that's performing the racist act or doing whatever racist activity that they don't realize within themselves that they are being racist. But in terms of indirect racism, it's kind of it's not necessarily something that they're not aware of that they're doing, but they're doing it in a way where it doesn't directly target the person that they're being racist towards.
Great, thank you. I hope that clarified a little bit more with our definitions. So now we're going to move on to our reflection questions.
Okay, for the first reflection question, what did you enjoy most about today's workshop? And I also will be putting these questions in the chat just in case you guys can't hear me for some reason. Alicia, did I say it right?
Yeah, you said it right.
Okay.
I really like the Jamboard part. I think it was good to like talk about like each of like the not scenarios, but like each of them and like give like our own experiences with it.
So from the comments and from what Alicia said, everybody enjoyed the Jamboard. Okay, is that all for that first question? Okay. Second question, were there any takeaways from today's workshop? Go ahead, Gigi.
I thought it was really helpful to learn how to like confront people when they were saying offensive things respectfully and actually create like change in their perspective, because sometimes like you're not really equipped to deal with somebody who's saying something that you want them to change or something like that.
Okay. So you guys learned a lot. Okay. And for the third question is this the first time you've ever been approached with these type of situations? Kai, you can go ahead.
I feel like I like often go through these situations, like especially like with my parents or like family members, and that's really hard. But I think like it's nice to see like when we were like doing the Jamboard thing to see how many people like related to that as well.
I agree with you, Kai, and I agree with everybody in the comments. The fifth question is, prior to today's workshop, would you have handled these situations differently? If so, how? I don't want to mispronounce your name. Can you please go
Yeah,
ahead,
it's
Kelly?
Celia. I probably would have walked away. Like I wouldn't like confront them. I really hate confrontation, so I probably would just walk away and like pretend it wouldn't happen.
I agree. I'm not a confrontational person either. Georgia, I hope I say your name right. Say your name right.
Yeah, I think I would maybe get a little bit angrier and be a little less like calm and ready to actually like persuade people. But I think like the sentence starters and those ways of conversation really helped me to have a different perspective about how you can actually change people's minds on it.
Okay, and for the final question, do you have any other pointers on handling these type of situations? Go ahead, Kai.
I feel like though I agree, like you can like still engage in dialogue and like some conversations. I feel like there are like some that, and I feel like you can like really feel it like in your body and like when you're engaging in like really like if the conversation becomes really harmful and like just like nothing's really gonna get out of it, like to really like protect yourself, and know that you don't have to like engage or like sort of like for their own benefit in a way. Because like if it's not like if it's bringing you so much like if it's like kind of bringing up like trauma, bringing up so many different things, like I feel like I forget who said it, but I think Kaylee, you said it, like to like walk away, like literally like right in their face, just walk away.
Okay, I think we're done with the reflection questions now.
Hi, so now we're gonna get into our winding down portion. So first, I'm gonna give you some meditation steps that you can do anywhere if you're in like a heated conversation. And when we're having those important conversations, it's just important to remain calm within ourselves, even though it's hard. So first, we're gonna begin, and if you all could do it with me, I'd really appreciate it. So we're gonna begin by taking a deep breath. And as we take the deep breath, we're gonna raise our arms up. And then, thank you for doing it. And then as we breathe out, we're gonna let our arms go down. And with that, we'll close our eyes. Okay, so then we're gonna repeat these affirmations. I am at peace, and I recognize that some conversations won't be as productive as others, and that is okay. If somebody could repeat that in the audience. That's all right. So the second affirmation is, it is a normal response to feel emotionally exhausted. Advocating for racial justice is not easy, but it's important to make my well-being a priority. Then finally, just recall that in the same way you want people to hear you, you must also listen to others. And with that, you just continue taking a few deep breaths. And then when you're ready, you open your eyes. And if you find that the conversation is something you would rather not pursue, you just walk away. It's completely okay. Don't let yourself get angry over something you don't need to be angry over. And if you find that this is a conversation you'd like to continue and you think both you and the person you're conversating with can benefit from this conversation, then I'd say continue and keep an open mind. And also, I hope that the person who you're conversating with will keep an open mind. So now we're going to head into a guided meditation, which is about 5 minutes. It's a really good one of my favorites that I do pretty frequently. And yeah, so it's the link right there. And let's begin.
I
think you
can't.
have to share the sound.
I'm sorry. I completely forgot. Okay, I'm sharing the sound right now. And I shall restart the video. Okay, can everyone
Hey there, and thanks for gifting yourself these next few minutes. It's important to remember that you're a priority, and allowing yourself even just a few short minutes of intentional reflection can really have a positive impact on the rest of your day. So let's use these next few minutes to come back to center and set an intention for the rest of your day. Move into a comfortable position, whether you're seated at your desk at work or laying on the couch at home, and gently close your eyes and shift all of your attention onto your breathing, taking slower, deeper breaths than you've taken all day so far. Taking a deep breath in through your nose and slowly letting it out through your mouth. And continuing to breathe that way, feeling your lungs expand out as you inhale and contract back in as you exhale. Tune into your body, noticing how it feels. Noticing if there's anything that it's trying to tell you. Notice any place of tension or tightness in your body. And give those areas permission to relax, sending love into those areas. Thank your body for taking such good care of you, and let it know that it's okay to rest and relax for these next few minutes. You may notice that your mind starts to wander off. That's okay. That's natural. Just notice it and bring your attention back to your body, using your breath as your anchor. Try to picture one thing that's happened today that's made you smile, or made you thankful or appreciative. And just let that feeling fill you up for a moment. Breathe that feeling in from the top of your head to the tips of your toes. And allow yourself to smile if that feels natural. Now focus on something that you can do today, whether it's for yourself or for someone else, that will allow you to continue feeling this way. It could be something as small as deciding to go to bed early tonight, so that you have time to finally read that book that's been on your bedside table. Or the joy of getting dinner with a close friend. What's one little thing you can plan for your day to bring that intentional joy to it? Now just focus on that for a few minutes. Sit in that feeling of joy and peace. Now let's take a few more deep breaths together. A deep breath in, feeling your lungs expand out as you inhale, and everything contract back in as you exhale. Again, an even deeper breath than the one before it, holding that breath for a beat, and exhaling everything out. Last time, your deepest breath yet, sending that breath through your entire body. And exhale it out. And in your own time, slowly bring your awareness back to where you are. And thank yourself for taking these few minutes to just be intentional and kind to yourself. And when you're ready, you can gently open your eyes and enjoy the rest of your day.
So really quick, I would love if we could get some responses. How was that meditation for you? Did it help? And do you think this is something you do? Alfred said he was close to falling asleep. I'm glad. Anybody else? Oh, Alicia?
I really love that it talked about like trying to think about like a moment that like made you happy or like made you smile today, because I think it really just like put me in a better mood.
I'm so glad to hear that. For me, I always have trouble keeping my eyes closed during meditations, but you know, when I saw you guys keeping your eyes closed, I tried my hardest for you, and it was really relaxing. Natalie said it felt really good and taking that time to just breathe. So it looks like we have some really positive responses in the chat, and I wanted to tell you all thank you, thank you, thank you, and we're gonna head over to our next slide.
Okay. So now we're going to talk about some of our resources. Sorry about that. Meditation has me, I guess, really tired now. That was really good though. Okay. So number one, set clear ground rules and boundaries before the discussion. Number two, start with long-term big picture goals rather than smaller ones. Number three, reframe the question. And number four, work to rebalance the power dynamics. And so like make sure you're not being disrespected, because I know that a lot of times during these conversations, it's about, things that are kind of like basic human rights that a lot of people can't exactly like grasp or understand because they have like a certain privilege or whatever it may be. So I know that a lot of times when we're having these conversations, it can feel very personal, as many of us have shared throughout today's workshop. And that just builds on the fact that it's important to take care of yourself. It's important to take time out to take care of yourself rather than, taking a lot of things too close to heart. And a lot of times it's important to kind of take things with a grain of salt, especially when you're kind of having a conversation or a debate or it's getting heated with someone and they have very different like experiences and perspectives than you. And then here we have how to have meaningful conversations. So in order to remember this, we can use the 3 R's: respect, reflect, and redesign. I think those are kind of very important, especially like after the conversation when you're kind of looking back on it. You can sort of like look at things that you might have done that you might want to do differently in the future. So in terms of our tips and the 3 R's, what do you guys kind of see as being the most useful, like the most useful tip to use, or what do you think could be like the hardest thing to use, the thing that you might have like the most trouble with, that you might have to kind of work on and put the most energy towards? Well, I feel for me, something that could be kind of difficult that I'm definitely gonna have to work on in having these. Oh wait, okay, Kai, you can go.
No, you finish.
Okay. Well, I think for me, just like number one, setting clear ground rules for the conversation might be like the most difficult thing for me to do, because well, I definitely have a hard time like in terms of assessing boundaries for other people and what's okay to say and not to say. I definitely don't have issues with that, but in terms of deciding what boundaries that other people cannot overstep for like myself, that's definitely something that I struggle with. So I'll definitely have to work on that. And Kai, you can go now.
I feel like for me, like I'm looking at the text in black, and I think for me it would definitely have to be respect, which seems like, you know, that should be like the most guaranteed. But honestly, like whenever I'm having like a conversation with someone, or like I'm listening, like I'm in class or something, and I hear someone say like something that I just do not agree with, like I feel like my like instinct reaction is to lose all respect for them, you know? And so like I don't know. I'm still have I don't know. I'm gonna still work on that. I'm gonna see. We'll see where it goes. Because I think what I'm trying to say is that there's some situations where like it's just the respect is. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that there are some times where you just. I feel like for me, I can't give respect. Like I can't. But if there is a situation that calls for it, I will try my best.
I definitely like 100% agree with that. Like a lot of times, like I was saying, like these sorts of debates and conversations, especially when it comes to like racial justice, are very hard to have because a lot of the issues are kind of based around like basic human rights rather than like politics or anything like that. So I definitely do find respect difficult too. But a way that I kind of like to look at it, I guess, is kind of like, I don't know, this sounds like kind of weird, but a lot of times in order to be more okay with the respect aspect, I kind of look at it as if I'm kind of like investigating this person and trying to understand like why they think the way they do, rather than kind of taking like their opinions, taking their like thoughts and the things that they say like so much to heart. I kind of try to think of it in a sense where it's more like distant from myself kind of thing. And I feel like that helps me kind of have not even necessarily have respect for them, but kind of be able to appreciate what they're saying, even if it's like offensive or just not okay in the long run. But then like again, that goes back to the power dynamic and setting clear ground rules at the outset. Like they all of these tips and like the 3 R's, they all kind of work together to help each other. So hopefully if you set clear ground rules at the outset and stuff like that, other people will work to respect you as well, and you won't really need to have those instances of like that headbutting that just gets too personal and too close to home. So does anyone else have any comments or questions that they'd like to share?
I just wanted to highlight that what was in the chat. Jenna said it's particularly hard when someone is wanting to debate or negate someone's humanity. It's not always easy to respect someone who isn't respecting others, and I completely agree with that. And I also think we need to remember, like, not even though we have it written here, not everyone particularly deserves your admiration. Like respect is one thing, but you don't have to admire a person, and you don't have to support what they stand for in that sense. Like I feel like respect and admiration are two different things, and sometimes people kind of intertwine them when they're talking about people. So I feel like respect is just you going and saying like, okay, I'm gonna let you talk, but even I might not agree with you, but I won't like bash you head on, and I won't completely argue with you. But admiration is like something else, like, oh, like I admire everything that you're saying and I full on support everything. So I think like that's where you draw the line. You just need to remember not everyone deserves your admiration or can even have your admiration. But respect is also just the fact that you let someone just talk, and like even though you may not completely agree with what they're saying, at the end of the day, you just let them speak, even though it may not be what you like to hear. So yeah, and I'm gonna pass it to Natalie.
I completely agree with what you said, but I also wanted to talk about real quick the one, I think it's the last R, yes, which is resign. Personally, like I struggle with resigning from a conversation and just like being like, okay, I'm not gonna continue this anymore, because I can be very stubborn. So if I'm in an argument, I'm gonna want to keep going back and forth. But I feel like I have to learn, and also I think this is something that we should all like. If you're also struggle with that sometimes, you have to just kind of remember that it's like you have to think about your mental health as well. And so also with like the breathing exercise, I really liked it, and I think that we should all use it a lot, because it's like, breathe, calm down. If you don't think that this conversation is for you, then just simply walk away. Like, I think it was Alyssa that said earlier with just, so yeah.
I also heavily relate to Natalie about resigning from a conversation, because when you're in the middle and it's already so heated, if you stop, it's like you just feel unsatisfied. But I think we're at pretty much the end of our workshop, Sharona. Yeah. So we can just do a quick wrap up and review everything we did. So this workshop was focused around getting to that point where we can have respectful conversations about racial justice while also preserving our mental health and our well-being, but also trying to get our points across. So I hope you all enjoyed it, and I hope you learned some things that you will take away. So clapping all around, wonderful.
So that concludes our presentation. You all did an amazing job. Super proud of you all. Snaps. Now we want everyone to take the next 4 minutes filling out this rubric sheet that's evaluating basically how the racial justice group did. And as you fill out the rubric, please also think about like the following questions. What are some takeaways from the workshop? What are the glows and what are the grows? And thank you so much. We really appreciate it so much. And I'll paste all these information into the chat. And we'll have 4 minutes.